Hey, Miss Mott's friends. If you watched The Cat in Numberland Chapter 1 yesterday, I'm ready for Chapter 2 today. I hope you are. If not, be sure to watch Chapter 1. I'm about to read Chapter 2. Okay? So here's the first page of Chapter 2. If you remember, we left the cat. He loves his peace and quiet at Hotel Infinity. So here we go. Chapter 2. The night is cold, the snow is falling, and everything is so quiet. The cat is sleeping soundly by the fireside, as are the Hilberts in their bed and all the numbers in their rooms. Suddenly there's a knock on the door, a very light knock, as if somebody wanted to be heard, but did not want to wake up all the hotel. So light that only Mrs. Hilbert hears it. She gets out of bed, opens the door, and stands outside, shivering in the cold. Is Zero, modest and unassuming. There he is. So yesterday we read about even and odd numbers. We're going to learn about the number 0 today. Mrs. Hilbert wakes up her husband and says, "Zero is out there in the cold. We must find him a room." But Mr. Hilbert answers, "Nonsense! 0 is not a number. There is no reason he should stay here with all the other numbers. Let him go somewhere else." "What do you mean 0 is not a number?" asked Mrs. Hilbert, her temper rising. And there they are. "Numbers serve to count things." Mr. Hilbert answers, "like apples or fingers. When you say one apple, you mean something, and when you say one finger, you mean something else. When you say two apples, you mean something, and when you say two fingers, you mean something else again. But who ever said 0 apple or 0 finger? That would mean the same thing, which is nothing. So 0 is not a number." By now Mrs. Hilbert is very angry, and she tells her husband, "You old fool, perhaps long ago when you were young, people thought that 0 was nothing. But nowadays every child in school has learned about 0 and knows how important he is. 10 is a number, 100 is a number, 1000 is a number. They are written with 0. Oh my goodness. All right, let's make some predictions, friends. We have all these numbers gathered around. I wonder if they would be numbers without 0. With 0, you can write very large numbers indeed, such as 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000, but not as large as the foolishness of my husband who pretends that 0 is nothing. When they start quarreling, the cat by the fireplace wakes up and looks for a quiet place to sleep, but there is none, so she just has to bear it. All the numbers in their rooms wake up and listen to the quarrel until they all shout with one voice, "Yes, 0 is a number. We want to play with him. Let him in. Let him in." 0, who is still standing by the door, hears this and is happy that he is so welcome. But old Mr. Hilbert has not given up. He tells his wife, "It is all your fault because you woke me up in the middle of the night and I could not think properly. I agree now that 0 is a number, but there is no room for him anyway. Number 1 lives in room 1, number 2 lives in room 2, number 1,234,566 lives in 1,234,566. So you see that the rooms are all occupied. No, none is available for 0, and we will just have to send him away." And they are quarreling. There's some pictures on the next page. At that, everyone falls silent in the hotel, and they begin to ponder. What Mr. Hilbert has said is perfectly true. The hotel is full. There is no empty room, and it seems as though they will just have to turn 0 away. Number 1,234,566, who tries to be helpful, says, perhaps he can share my room for tonight. But everyone knows it is not possible because 1,234,566 is so large that his bed takes up all the room, and he takes up all the space in his bed. So there really is no room for anyone except himself. Oh, there he is. Then number 1, who is much smaller and wants to set a good example, says, I will let him share my room tonight. But old Mr. Hilbert, who does not want his numbers to start sharing rooms, said, absolutely not. For if 1 starts living with 0, how am I to tell the difference between both of you and number 10? We will have 2 10s living in the hotel, and we will be missing number 1 and 0. All the numbers who hear him think he's right, and even Mrs. Hilbert does not want to have another number 10, especially since the one they already have thinks a lot of himself. There's number 10. Oh, there's number 10. This would be 1 and 0. He can stay with me. No. All right, here are the next few pages. So it seems as though old Mr. Hilbert has won the day and he is trying not to smirk. But then the small voice of 0 says, may I make a suggestion? If everyone moves up 1 number, so that number 1 moves to room 2, number 2 moves to room 3, number 1,234,566 moves to room 1,234,567, then everyone will have a new and bigger room. And there will be no one left in room 1. So now room 1 will be empty, and there would be space available in Hotel Infinity. All the numbers say, hey, let's try this out. So everyone moves up 1 room. Number 1 moves to room 2. Number 2 moves to room 3. Number 1,234,566 moves to room 1,234,567, where he finds a bigger bed and is more comfortable. All right, let's see. 1, 2. All right, we have about 5 more pages. Room 1 is now empty, and 0 moves in and goes to sleep. All the reading on Friday is difficult. All the other numbers go back to sleep in their new rooms, and Mr. and Mrs. Hilbert go back to sleep in their old room. Only the cat by the fireplace does not go back to sleep because she is trying to figure it out. The hotel was full, she thinks. There was 1 guest in each room. Now it is full again, and there is still 1 guest in each room. But there is 1 more guest in the hotel. 0 is outside. Now he has moved in, and yet nothing has changed. How is that possible? In the morning, when the numbers and the Hilberts wake up, they find that 0 is a very pleasant fellow, modest and unassuming. The only thing that upsets him is division. Never try to divide by 0. Has anyone ever put that in a calculator? Your calculator gets a little confused when you try to divide by 0. But if you don't, he causes no problems and plays addition and subtraction and multiplication with all the other numbers. It turns out that he is an even number, but the odd numbers like him because he is great fun to play with. Mrs. Hilbert, of course, loves him because she is such a kind person, and even old Mr. Hilbert likes him because 0 has found out that his hotel is even bigger than anyone had thought. All right, what's going to happen next? The next day, Mr. Hilbert asked all the numbers to put their own names on their doors. Otherwise, he said, you will get mixed up and won't be able to find your rooms again. So 0 erases the 1 on his door and writes 0 instead. Number 1 erases the 2 on his door and writes 1 instead. Number 1,234,566 erases the 1,234,567 on his door and writes 1,234,566. Old Mr. Hilbert checks when taking his usual walk through the hotel, and he thinks 0 lives in room 0, number 1 in room 1, and so on. All the numbers have their own names on their doors, and I know they will not get lost. Everything is back to order, and this is fine with me. Oh, this is interesting. The cat almost looks like, what do you call that punctuation again? A question mark. And it is fine with everyone else as well, except the cat, who again cannot sleep because she is trying to figure things out. Look, she thinks, there never was a room 0 in this hotel before, and now there is one. All the old numbers are still there, 1, 2, and so on. So there must be one more room. But where is it? All right, so tomorrow for chapter 3, here's a little preview. Chapter 3's description says, in chapter 3, more guests arrive, games are played with letters, and still more room is found in Hotel Infinity. All right.